there are many members of the Congress today, Republicans, who not only will not raise the minimum wage, which is $5.15 an hour, you know what they will tell you, honestly? They believe in abolishing the minimum wage.
Kyle Kulinski shows an old clip of Bernie Sanders, in his words, predicting Trump's rise. And this is from back in 2003, but it's had a hot flash on the internet recently. I want to take a look at this clip. Let's go to Kyle Kulinski setting it up.
So there's this clip of Bernie Sanders that went viral a day or two after Kamala Harris lost the election to Donald Trump. And this is a video from all the way back in 2003. Bernie's at some event where he's talking to, it's either high school or college kids. They're discussing politics. And everybody needs to remember what was going on at the time Bernie was giving this speech, right? This was kind of the beginning of the Bush era. The Iraq War was already underway. The war in Afghanistan was already underway. But this was like the beginning of the Bush era, which you got to understand, man. I cannot overstate just how much growing up in this generation, in this era of politics, radicalized myself and many other millennials. In fact, when you look at the political ideology chart and the direction the different generations are moving as they age, every single age group, silent generation, baby boomer, Gen X, and even Gen Z now, who are younger than millennials, they've all gotten more conservative over time. Everyone. The only one that's gotten further left, it's the millennials. And I really think a lot of that has to do with what we lived through, right? If you were born around the same time I was born, I'm 36 years old, but there's a window there where if you were born within the millennial generation, think of the things you had to witness, right? You had to witness 9/11. You had to witness the war in Iraq, the war in Afghanistan. Those wars were based on lies. You had to witness torture and the Patriot Act and Columbine and countless mass shootings and the subprime mortgage crisis and the Great Recession and the rise of Trump. And I mean, the list goes on, right? It's just one cataclysmic disaster after another. So there's this sort of like, I don't know, built-in thing to the millennial psyche of like, shit is fucked and we gotta do better. And so we're a generation that has really, held firm to our values that and our ideals that there's got to be something better than this and we got to fucking work for it, right? We can't do this insane Reagan era bullshit forever. We can't be hyper individualistic, every man for themselves. We really got to have a different narrative, have a different ideology, have a different philosophy, have something that gets us on the right track. So here's Bernie talking to these students, and what's amazing about this clip, as you're about to see, is that he's basically sort of perfectly predicting the rise of Trumpism before it even happens. Watch this.
How does the Republican Party do so good? And now I'm going to tell you something that very few people in Congress would tell you. If you are the Republican leadership, and this is what your goals are, your goals are to give huge tax breaks to the very richest people in this country. Your goals are ultimately to privatize Social Security so that Wall Street can make money from that. Privatize Medicare so the insurance companies can make more money. Privatize education. Do away with public schools. If those are your goals and you said that to the American people, you think you got a lot of lower. There are many members of the Congress today, Republicans, who not only will not raise the minimum wage, which is $5.15 an hour, you know what they will tell you, honestly? They believe in abolishing the minimum wage. Did you know that? Check it out. Telling you the truth. So that if Americans can work for $3 an hour or $2 an hour, not a problem. Now, if you had an agenda like that and you went before the American people, tax breaks for the rich, destruction of Medicare, destruction of Social Security, as we know it, lowering the minimum wage or abolishing it, how many votes do you think you'd get? Not a whole lot. Maybe the richest 1% would vote for you. But that's not a lot of votes. So what do I do? Got a problem. You package it. How do you package it? And here I want you to pay attention to me. Because this is bad stuff. I don't mind debating people who say, I was on the Hannity show, Sean Hannity yesterday, and Hannity, extreme right-wing guy, he he loves these tax breaks for the rich and so forth, so we had a little bit of a discussion about that. Actually, it was a loud discussion, am I right? But I don't mind people who are upfront about that. Okay, give the rich more tax breaks, we can argue that. But that doesn't win you elections. So this is what you do. What you do is divide people up. When you asked me your question, how do I get elected? I said, I try to bring people together. We fight for women's rights. We support the rights of minorities. We support the rights of workers. We bring the majority of people together. And occasionally, honest people will have differences of opinion. In this room, there will be differences of opinion. But everybody in this room is in agreement that everybody should have health care, right? Question number 2, should we increase funding for education or should we lower funding for education? Raise your hand if you think we should increase funding for education. Okay, you're on the side of the vast majority of Americans. Okay. So on those issues, we bring people together. Now, what do the Republicans try to do? And they use it in what we call, kind of language that they don't, not upfront about. What do? We divide people up by races. Affirmative action becomes one issue. All them black people getting the jobs that we white people used to have. Split people, working class, white against black. Instead of working together to create decent jobs for all. Those uppity women now, they want the right to choose. We'll split people on the abortion issue. We'll split people up on the gun issue. We'll split people up on religious issues. You follow what I'm saying? So you split people up, and then they end up, if you're a middle class person, voting against your own interests, and the rich go laughing all the way to the bank. Okay? And they very often play white workers off against everybody else. And we try to bring people together to say, look, we're all in this boat together, whether you're black or white, whether you're Hispanic, whether you're Muslim, whatever you may be. Everybody needs health care. How do we create a health care system that works for all people? Not divide people up. Everybody knows that the kids, young people, do not make it into the middle class unless they have a decent college education. So how do we make college education accessible to all people? Not an expensive proposition. A tiny, tiny fraction of the president's tax breaks for the rich, if we put into financial aid, would make sure that every young person in this country could go to college without going deeply into debt. You know what? The vast majority of the people support us. But in order to do that, we've got to bring everybody together. And many of these, not all, and I'm not here to disparage all Republicans. Some very decent people happen to be conservative. I respect that. But some people who I don't respect will play off women against men, black against white. Oh, the gay issue. Very, very big issue. Okay? Straight against gay, right? We're all supposed to hate gay people. So we split that group up. And then the argument, some of us are not patriotic. We had concerns about the war in Iraq. I voted against giving the president authority to the war in Iraq. Well, that makes us unpatriotic. We hate America. Divide those things up. And that's how they succeed. And they succeed with the help of the media. Because the media will not talk about how, in a sense, the common problems that Americans face and how we bring people together. And that's what I believe. I believe that on issues like everybody in this room thinks, I think, that instead of giving tax breaks to the rich, we should increase federal aid to education. Anyone disagree with that? Well, you know what? Most Americans agree with that. All of you think that every American should be entitled to health care. I suspect most of you think we should not have a trade policy which allows corporations to throw American workers out on the street and run to China. Most Americans agree with that. And our job is to bring people together on common interest. And some of these extreme right-wing people, you watch the issues that they talk about. Affirmative action they use to divide. The issue of abortion they use to divide. The issue of guns they use to divide. And our job is to say, let's focus on basic economic issues. How do we expand the middle class? This is a great country. Why is it the average American is working longer hours for low wages than 30 years ago? Let's talk about that. Okay?
Damn. I mean, that's literally exactly what we're dealing with now.
It's true.
You know, and even I thought, no, people are going to see through Trump this time. He was already president in 2016. He already did massive tax cuts for the rich and deregulation and gave the wealthy everything they wanted and screwed over working people. And we lost 2.9 million jobs, and he outsourced 200,000 manufacturing jobs, and he's super corrupt, and he did, countless interventions foreign policy wise, bombed Syria, bombed Somalia, ripped up the Iran agreement, got rid of the Paris Climate Agreement. He did all these things. I thought there's no way people are going to fall for this again. But I was wrong.
And really, the thing is that this is not because of Trump. Trump is a symptom of this, right? As that clip from 2003 shows, you know, Bernie, this has been the right-wing tactic, the party of the rich's tactic all along, divide and conquer. And it is just now coming to fruition. The rise of a quote-unquote strongman like Trump is just almost the inevitable conclusion of things getting bad enough for the American people that they are willing to listen to this baloney populist message from a clearly corrupt messenger like Trump.
I was wrong. And the reason I was wrong is exactly what Bernie is explaining here. Donald Trump had a story. Donald Trump had a narrative. And that narrative is, I know you're fucking pissed. I'm fucking pissed too. I know you're angry. I'm the most angry guy you'll ever see in politics. And I'll tell you who's to blame for all the problems. I will tell you. It's the immigrants. The immigrants are coming in this country. They're taking your jobs. They're getting free stuff. They're getting all the welfare. The government takes care of them and doesn't take care of you. We need to do mass deportation, bro. That's what we got to do. This was his argument. Blame the immigrants, blame the cultural elites, people like in Hollywood, blame the Democrats, blame the trans people. These people are the reason why you're pissed off, you're angry, and you're struggling. And the Democratic reaction to that narrative was, here's our list of policies, and we're in favor of, tweaking the status quo to make it marginally better for you. But generally speaking, everything's okay. Everything's kind of okay. That was the argument from the Democrats. That's not a narrative. That's not a story. You're not telling people, hey, you're the protagonist in the story. I'm the protagonist in the story. Here's the story. Here's who you should be mad at. Here's who the problem is. You don't have a story. Look, Trump lost in 2020. What did Trump do in 2020? You remember? What was he running on? For a while, he was like, well, I can't say make America great again because I've already been president for 4 years. And in my mind, I already made it great. So let's run on Keep America Great, CAG. Keep America Great didn't work. He lost. Why? Because he wasn't even selling a narrative anymore. His narrative, everything's great because I'm in here. Everything's great. Lost, right? Democrats, look, everything's pretty good. Look at this chart. Look at this graph. Everything's okay. Vote for me. Wrong. They went with the guy with an ironclad narrative and story. And the narrative is wrong. The narrative is incorrect. The narrative is absolute horseshit, but it's a narrative. So what Bernie's saying here is, that's their narrative. You got to have a counter narrative. Now, there's one thing that he's wrong about. The thing he's wrong about is, he was like, well, I bring people together, right? That's what I do. I bring people together, and they divide people. I'm against dividing people. Here's the thing. I think it's a dark part of human nature. They want a story, they want a narrative, and they want to know who to blame. And so really, the messaging that works even better, yeah, Bernie, you bring people together, but you bring people together around a common enemy. Who is the common enemy? It's the billionaire class. It's the corporations. It's the big money donors. It's the people who have bought our government, the special interests and the lobbyists who have bought our government and make our government represent them and not you. There's a reason we don't have, a higher minimum wage bill that passed and was signed. There's a reason. There's a reason why the PRO Act didn't pass. There's a reason why we're still arming and funding Israel as they committed genocide, right? That's the problem. Have a narrative, have a story. I'm the protagonist, you're the protagonist. The people we're against, it's the billionaires, it's the super PACs, it's the big money donors. They've corrupted our government. We're going to come save the day and fix it. And I'm going to get you universal health care. I'm going to get you higher wages. I'm going to pass the PRO Act. I'm going to end the wars. So,
I think Kyle Kulinski is right. That would have been a winning argument. Then the problem comes that you're basically pointing the finger correctly at the bad guy, who is the big corporations and corrupt politicians and the super rich. But now that we've got free dark money in politics and money is speech because of Citizens United, it's a real uphill fight to fight the money that then will rally against you. And I think that we have seen time and time again Bernie get out there and tell the truth, only to have whatever piece of the machine is tied to the money basically shut him down. But I want to know what you think in the comments. Let me know your thoughts.